episode number 59 of LuchaWorld. Fredo and the Freak are back. Vandal Drummond, VD, Fredo Esparza, FE. How you doing tonight, Fredo?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. How you doing?
Neither can I. We have air conditioning.
Yes, air conditioning after... Actually, it's not as bad today as it was on Monday. So we're taping this on a Tuesday, but Monday was hell.
Oh,
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I think that was record heat, right?
It was. When I got into Elena's car, her thermometer read 116.
Oh, geez.
And
yeah.
I felt it too.
And there was a fire, too, nearby, so...
Yes. So
yeah.
that's
horrible.
the fun we've been having. We've been having fun, fortunately. Yeah, our AC is working. So.
Oh, it is good.
Yeah.
I feel bad for those who don't have AC right now. That's at least one thing that hasn't broken on me the last 2-3 weeks.
That's right. In the last few weeks, you've had major internet problems.
Yeah, my refrigerator had issues. Everything.
Yes.
The internet problem got fixed right away, but still, missing. It was funny because when my internet went out, you've seen that commercial where they show that family that loses internet.
Yes.
For like 15 minutes, and they're just running around looking to see what they could find for internet. I was like, I've been doing that. It's been like I think the only good thing is that I grew up in an era when there was no internet, so I'm not as.
That's what's so funny is I was thinking the other day, wow, what did I do before internet? And it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I remember discovering the internet in '94 and just being so amazed at this.
Did you have internet at home in '94 though? That wasn't still.
Yeah, America Online.
You had it? Oh, okay.
Yes,
I didn't have it.
My brother-in-law was a computer whiz. He, in fact, what happened was Elena had been in a car wreck. She wasn't badly hurt, but she had to kind of stay around the house for a while, laid up, and so he installed America Online to entertain her. We're just like, oh my god, chat rooms! Look, you can talk to somebody in real time and no long distance charge.
Did you download naked pictures of women that took 15 minutes to download? Remember that?
Yes, I do. Of course I do.
Yeah,
I'm a guy. Of course I do.
I know the first time I used the internet was, I think, probably in college, because it's like that's really when because I didn't really use the internet in high school or anything. Like you would use it like every once in a while, but it wasn't this big deal like when I was a kid.
And it's amazing how and
that's what's so weird when they called us when the Oracle called us computer nerds, computer geeks or computer nerds. It's like
how wonderful. We look the part, but we don't have...
I was the type of person, I would trade I would do Spanish homework for people just to do my computer homework because I didn't know how to do anything.
Absolutely. I know, we get to look like nerds, but we don't have the advantage of being able to fix a computer with
I could grasp
behind our back.
I could grasp stuff, to do certain things, but it's not something I'm constantly remembering.
Yeah, if something
I'll forget
major
about
goes wrong with my computer, I have to rely on somebody else. Well,
that week the good thing was that we went to a lucha show, so I was happy about that.
That's right. We went
even though they fixed the internet after right away.
UIPW show.
Yeah.
And as always, I want to give a thanks to Carrie for being so accommodating. Carrie is the alpha cat of UIPW. Earned his money that night. He was working like crazy.
The place was packed.
Oh my lord! Montebello.
We started worrying how many people could fit into the building because there were so many people in there.
Yes, I remember you, me, and Dan. All three of us. We were stationed close to a door.
Yeah, just in case.
Too many people get in here and a spark is ignited.
Yeah.
We want to be near an exit.
Yeah,
they... it was at a church in Montebello, so that was entertaining when people would yell "culero." Somebody would scream, "We're in a church!"
Yeah.
That was a fun show.
Well, the other thing, I think there was a lot of people there to see that guy, because they were filming that reality TV series for
El Gallo, Super Gallo.
Super Gallo. He's part of that Becoming a Luchador TV series. It's actually on YouTube right now. I think it's going to be on TV. I'm not.
Yes.
Actually, they did mention
that is the one.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a web series. It's a web series on another website or something.
That's the one featuring Superboy.
Yeah,
right?
Superboy and all the people that train with Superboy are on that.
That is so awesome.
So yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, as soon as they post the video, there's at least a couple of 100,000 people who immediately watch it.
Wow.
So that's probably the most exposure Superboy's ever gotten.
That's impressive.
Which is kind of like, you think about like all these guys, you would think they would want to like promote it on that, or that guy would actually give him a little bit of a rub.
Yeah,
which he might actually be doing that. You never know, but I haven't watched the last couple of episodes. But yeah, he was there. The main event was Volador Jr., and I think a lot of people went because Caristico was first time back in Los Angeles since he was Sin Cara. And Mysterioso Jr., Mysterioso the LA version.
The LA version
of Mysterioso.
That's the one we saw team with Negro Casas a few years back. Right?
Yeah, it's not Mysterioso the first one, which was Roberto Castillo, I think was his name. Not Mysterioso Jr. from CMLL. Not Mysterioso Jr. from Monterrey. No, Mysterioso from
And he is none
Los
of the
Angeles.
Huracan Ramirez's that have been out there in the last 2 years or so.
And then there was I guess we should talk about the big match, Mr. Piolín versus Mongol in a mask versus hair match.
That's right. 2 out of 3 falls.
I thought the best part of that match was Mima Shimoda came out to sell. It was after intermission, wasn't it?
Yes.
That match. Mima Shimoda came out to give out to like sell autograph pictures and take photos with fans, and she stayed after that to watch the matches, and she was very interested watching that match. I think she even sat like closer to watch the match. Mm-hmm. But I just thought it was funny that here's this person that's been probably gone to some of the biggest shows in Japan and Mexico, and there she is watching Mr. Piolín versus El Mongol and looking interested. I was like, dude, that thing. I was like, I don't think I even watched half of it.
Well,
maybe there was a lot of people too, so I didn't see it.
Maybe she thought it was a Zen riddle of some kind.
Yeah.
You're supposed to what exactly is it they're doing?
Yeah, it wasn't that long either. So.
Piolín did get his head shaved.
Yeah, he got all his head, and they actually brought the clippers for that the cut to shave his head and everything.
Yes,
he didn't have to suffer through just scissors, kindergarten scissors, like the other people. What was the other? Well, the other highlight was you interviewing Mima Shimoda. Well, the other highlight was Sexy Star showing up, I think, during that match. Yes! Sexy Star showed up. She walked right by us. Yeah, she walked by us. Somebody in front of her was carrying was rolling her suitcase or whatever that, with her gear. And she walked in without her mask on. Yes. But I've watched Monterrey Lucha. I mean, it's pretty easy to identify a Sexy Star without her mask if you've watched. Yeah. I forgot how tiny she is. Yeah, so she showed up. Dan was like, she's not that bad looking, and I was like, no, I don't think anybody said she was really that bad looking. Oh dear! But it was funny. Like, some people have high standards. Yeah. That's funny. No, yeah. The highlight was you interviewing Mima Shimoda. She just lit up like a Christmas tree. Like, it's so funny. She seems so quiet when she's selling the photos. Yeah. I even thought at one point I was telling Dan, I go, she should shout, she should yell a little more because she's so quiet. Like, she'd be like $10 photo or very quiet. Yeah, she looked so demure and just passive. And then you interviewed her, and she just was joking, and she punched you on the arm. Because I went and asked her. I asked her if I could interview her, and she was like, "Yeah, sure." I said after the show, she's like, "Fine." I figured she would leave. I mean, because But we found out later that she came in with Volador Jr., so I guess she came along with them. Oh, that's why. Well, you didn't find out. You haven't read the interview, huh? No, I haven't. Jeez. You didn't do anything to prepare for this podcast. Oh, I haven't. Yeah, we'll get into that after we talk about it. Yes. So then she starts. I asked her how many years she'd been wrestling. It's so weird because I asked 2 questions at a time. Because I figured they could answer both at cut time. Yes. So I asked her how many years she had been wrestling, and then I asked her when she plans on, like, is she planning on continuing to wrestle? Because I hadn't seen her wrestle that much. So she was telling me that she had been wrestling for, she said 30 years. I understood 40 years. Uh-huh. So when I said 40 in Spanish, she understood me. So she punched me. She punched me in the arm. And then she said 30 again, and I didn't understand her the second time, so I just went with it. I was like, oh, okay. And we got that great picture of you. Yeah, so then... That was awesome. So then what was the other thing? Then there's this ongoing story from Mexico that every time she does an interview, she gets asked about a Mexican boyfriend. This gets asked of every Japanese woman. They'll ask them, really? Have you met a Mexican boyfriend? The CML people do this. The Julio Cesar Rivera.
They want to give...
He always does that. No, it's just him being silly. And so this has been going, like, I think the last time she got interviewed by him was, like, maybe, like, 6-7 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this has always been something I kept... Whenever somebody would go to Mexico, I would ask them, ask Mima if she still found her Mexican boyfriend. Nobody ever asked. So then I decided to ask her, and she told me she had it. And she said, the way she said it, she says, nobody loves me. But she said it in the way people from Mexico talk. Like, her accent was Mexican, like actual Mexican.
Which was funny because...
It was funny to me, because, I mean, you don't really hear them talk like that. Like,
well, and also what's funny is... When you were about to do the interview, didn't she say, like, my Spanish is kind of rusty?
She told me to speak. She told me to speak slowly. Mm-hmm. Her Spanish was fine. It was just she can't understand.
Oh, like, comprehending
if you speak it fast. So that's why I was speaking a little slower. She understood me well enough to, like, get all the stuff I was saying.
She was so cool.
Yeah, but she was cool. Like, she took pictures with you guys. She what other thing did she say? Oh, I asked her if she was. You. Oh yeah, she hugged you. After the interview, you know, like, everybody makes fun of all the people who do all the lucha reporters. We always make fun of them taking pictures with wrestlers, which is why I don't take a lot of pictures of them. Yeah. You guys take pictures of them, but you're not the ones interviewing them or talking with them.
Yes.
But I don't take pictures with them. Like, I'll take it, but I won't post it online. You'll post it on Facebook, but not on my website. So then, except the Johnny Mundo one, because we look really...
That was too cool.
We looked really cool. He made us look so much cooler. And so... what was it? So we end the interview, and she hugs me. She hugs me, and I'm like, awesome. What the hell is... I just thought it was funny. And, you know, I hugged her. I was fine with it, because I just thought, I interviewed her, she hugged me. But then when she goes and hugs you guys kind of acted all weird. Like, you guys looked weird, like shocked.
I wasn't expecting that.
And it's weird, because I'm the one that's not the hugging type. You guys are the ones that constantly hug everyone.
Well, you know why it threw me off is almost every woman wrestler...
doesn't do this stuff. Like,
especially because there's so many guys who want to hug them. Yeah. And I've seen several cases of woman wrestlers kind of like, okay, keep the distance. You don't know what kind of message you send if you hug somebody.
Yeah, but then she hugged us. I was like, man, but she gave us a nice hug. It wasn't anything.
Sweet.
Yeah,
she was really cool.
And I asked her if she was going to come back to LA, and she said she could get booked by the promoter.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Then we talked. Before that, we spoke to Volador Jr. Actually, before that, we waited for like 30 minutes to talk with Volador Jr. In the hallway. So we got to experience the whole Caristico being a bit of a diva.
Oh,
there was like a long line of people waiting for Caristico to come out to sign autographs. First of all, none of these people brought... Caristico Volador Jr. didn't bring any, like, gimmicks to sell. Right. So they basically were okay losing money on that. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't even ask Volador Jr. if he brought anything, but he didn't bring anything. I didn't see anything there. So I didn't see anything for Caristico either. I mean, did you see anything? No. Just the people who bring stuff. We
got our Los Moros T-shirts. That's all.
Oh, you got that again?
I finally got.
I got one before that.
Yeah.
The show before that. So we're waiting for we were waiting for Volador. We knew we had no shot to. We had no shot to get Caristico, so I didn't even bother asking for Caristico. So everybody's waiting in the back in the hallway to see if Caristico would come out. They told them that Caristico was going to go out the other side, so that emptied out half the people. And then there was like a couple of people who showed up to ask if they could get some stuff signed by Caristico, and one of the wrestlers took something to the back and came back a few minutes later and told the person that Caristico wasn't signing anything.
In fact, there were several people who...
And then there were more. Yeah, and then there were more people who started saying that he wasn't signing anything.
There were a lot of fans who probably went into the building as Caristico fans and left not being Caristico fans.
And well, I think the other thing was that he was going to leave early, so that might have played into it because he had an early flight.
Yeah.
But then we saw the person that was waiting for him to like take him to the airport was constantly upset that he was taking so long. I think he was still there when we were talking to Volador Jr. So because I didn't see him leave. So yeah, then we asked Kerry if he could get us the interview with Volador Jr. And we waited for Kerry to set up the cage. There was like I think 10 people setting up a cage.
That's right.
And while that was going on, we saw Steve Payne And we talked. I think and we talked to Steve Payne, and he told us he's going to start running shows.
That's right.
He announced
one in July.
July 15th.
I'll be away.
Hope Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
And then there's going to be another one in August. But I think it's going to be more of an American type wrestling promotion.
Well, we should try to check it out.
Probably August. We'll try the August one.
That'd be a
And I know I asked him if he would do an interview with us, and I think he thought we would do it over the online or Skype or over the phone. And I was like, yeah, we do it. We just show up. We just show up with our recorder,
with our handy little microphone from Walnut Kills. And
we
do it on the spot.
We don't want to go into deep thought about this. We just want to do like a quick 5-10 minute interview. And we're done. It's like we don't need you. We don't want you guys to get in trouble.
We don't need you.
We don't need you guys to go too long, and we don't want you guys to get in trouble because we would have gotten in trouble with Steve Payne because he's also part of Lucha Underground, and
That's right.
He doesn't want to. We don't want to ask them anything.
It's funny. I've never seen wrestlers so tight-lipped. About.
And we told him too. We told him about our little cholo thing, and he laughed about that.
Yeah.
So we're not like anybody who's doing Lucha Underground. We don't even ask them about. We don't bring it up. We don't
even bring up their involvement.
Yeah. It's not something like
we do not want anybody to lose their gig.
Yeah. So he was saying that he would do an interview one of these days. So we'll probably get that at some point. I figure we'll do it after he promotes a couple of shows, and we have more to talk about with him as a promoter. And then we finally got to see Volador Jr. I like Kerry introduced us again. Volador Jr. remembered us.
Yes.
Which was cool.
That's right, that was cool.
And then, he, really sat, the first thing I asked him was, how long he was going to be in Los Angeles, because we had noticed how weird it was that he traveled from Japan to Mexico back to Los Angeles. So, but we also saw, before that, we saw his wife. Mm-hmm. Did you saw her already. You're already familiar with her.
Yes.
Yeah, so, this was weird because his wife came in with her son, their son, and then they also had another kid with them. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw the other kid.
There was another woman with them, but there was another kid with them.
That's the thing is, I didn't know if that kid was with them.
Yeah.
Just kind of hanging on.
So then I asked Volador in the interview, he's telling me about his situation with from his forgetting his wife's birthday, and I go, "How many kids do you have?" And he's like, "Oh, I only have one," and I was like. And so I wrote in the interview, I asked him this because I saw 2 kids. I was like, man. And I wrote, he must be getting ready to face the Casas family and needs some more backup, He's trying to build up the Volador Jr. family.
Trying to get going.
Because he saw all those kids that are coming out of the Casas Alvarado family.
Yes, what a cool guy, though.
Yeah, you know what I noticed? He's very laid back when he does the interviews. He sits down, very laid back, talks to us, and he always looks at you directly into the eye the entire time.
When he was talking with you, it's like he's talking intelligently with you. It's not like he's throwing out these sound bites.
And
just watching him.
I think it's great he doesn't keep track of anything going on online. Isn't that the other thing?
Yeah, it's just. Well, that's the thing I dig is both. This show had a huge crowd for a building like this.
Yeah.
But even that show we saw at the gym across the UIPW gym, or
UIPW,
what we call the
arena,
the arena across the street from where Gil's gym used to be.
Yes, a much longer name.
But that wasn't that big a crowd, and he turned it on. I mean, the dude works.
And there too, he was very laid back. He's kind of, he does a lot of cosplaying Johnny Mundo. Mm-hmm. But they both are very similar, and guys that look really cool.
I agree.
You think they're going to be assholes, and they're really nice guys. It's like they've been probably two of the surprising nice guys that we've met. But we were talking about the Will Ospreay Ricochet match.
Yes.
And he was talking about how he did watch the entire match and didn't understand why people were so upset about the little flips and all that were going on. And he actually said that he was more worried about the hit attack to the head that they were having, where they were getting hit in the head and all that stuff.
I agree with him because that's the only thing that kind of turns me off about New Japan.
But then he said that's up to the individual. It's not.
It's up to the individual. Yeah, I still don't like it though.
Yeah.
That's just me though.
You're not gonna watch it anyways.
No, I'm not. Well, what's funny is I. Earlier today...
Thought of watching it.
I actually looked for it.
Yeah.
But you know why I had a hard time finding it?
It's probably not online anymore.
It's online everywhere, but just little clips of it.
Yeah.
But what you see, there's hundreds of YouTube videos of people commenting on the match.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my God. And so I thought, because my thought was, even though this is LuchaWorld Podcast, it could be match of the year just for the talk it has.
It was really good, though. I watched it. It was
that's
really
what
good.
I want to see, and I even hear some old schoolers who saw just that 30-second.
It wasn't as good as what Meltzer was like, but Meltzer, he's like in the moment type of guy where it's like constantly, this is the greatest. He's becoming Tony Schiavone, where it's like, this is the greatest thing ever, like, and it's like, it was good, but it wasn't like there's been a lot of really good matches that I thought were better than that.
Well, what I've seen is comments by several old schoolers who saw the 30-second clip and
like Vader.
It was Vader one of them?
Yeah. Well, you didn't hear I was going to tell you. I asked Volador Jr. because I told Volador Jr. Vader was the one that said that. And then I asked him, do you know who Vader is? And I said Big Van Vader, and I also said Vader. And he's like, no, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, really? I'm like, dude. And I go, he was a huge star in Japan and the U.S. I go, he wrestled in Mexico too. He probably wrestled on shows that your dad was on. And he's like, no, I don't know who that is.
He is probably a tot running around with the.
Yeah, he didn't even know. It's so hilarious. But then, like I said, like you think of Volador Jr. and you're like, first of all, the guy dresses like one of those dudes who's really cool, like one of those cool guys. He likes to shop. He has a hot wife.
Yeah.
He's got a kid. Obviously, he's putting that rest of the time that he's not wrestling into that and not worrying about watching Vader matches and stuff like that.
Well, I even remember back when I started knowing wrestlers in the territory days, there were some guys who knew everybody under the sun, but then there were other guys who, like Ron Starr. Who's Ron Starr?
Yeah.
And you're surprised, but at the same time, you realize these might be people that's more of a job to them.
Superboy's kids, when we were telling them about Brian Pillman and all these guys, and they're like, I never heard of him. It's like, holy shit. It's not like it's just recent. It's not like 30 years ago or 40 years ago. This is like stuff from like the last 15, 20 years, and it's like they don't, I don't know.
But it's true. There's a lot of folks who, in fact, I remember in the late 80s, early 90s, there were a lot of guys training to be wrestlers here in California. And it's not like today where you know everything about New Japan, Mexico.
Yeah.
They only knew who was in the WWF and WCW.
Yeah.
And you'd show them something from Japan, and they'd say, what's with the video quality there? You're like, you idiots. There's some brilliant wrestling there.
Yes.
You're bitching about it being a third-generation tape.
Yeah.
But what I was starting to say was some old-timers who saw that 30-second clip would say, this is why it's killing the business. And then several of them posted something, all saying something like, okay, I'm eating crow here because I watched the whole match. And seeing the whole match in context, it's a very good match. It was built well.
Yeah.
It was like old. Somebody even says
there's
something
so
like
much
it's old school storytelling just with modern day moves.
It's like, and there's so much worse stuff that happens in wrestling that is actually killing the business.
Yes.
There was
incompetent promotion.
There was this clip of from a CZW show where God, I forgot the guy, John. I can't remember that dude's Zandig, I think is his name. Isn't it? I can't remember his name. They did a thing where they threw he threw a guy off a rooftop.
I saw that.
Through a garbage.
So that was
container.
CCW.
I think so, and I was like, that's just as weird. The Matt Hardy thing that was probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it was worse than that.
Exactly.
There's so much worse.
It's funny what
there's
people
constantly
point
stuff.
to as killing the business.
Yeah, there's so much worse stuff that's going on in wrestling that you could point out.
Yes, exactly.
Bad booking, bad pure growth. Wrestling main events, Thunder wrestling in main events. I mean, come on, there's a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, and it's just funny. I mean, this should get match of the year just because of all the talk it's generated.
Yeah.
Never, I can't remember the last time I heard one match.
It's probably going to place highly.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't even the match. It was just that 30-second clip. It probably wasn't even 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Where everybody started generating this buzz. I wouldn't even know about the match if thousands of people weren't.
The funniest thing I saw on Twitter, like when we'll talk about Mascara Dorada more, but it's just from you met Mascara Dorada.
Yes.
And this person tweets out, because he really wanted Mascara Dorada to be in the Cruiserweight Classic.
Mm-hmm.
He writes, I guess this guy's just coming up with stuff to like get him over with. They tag the WWE people like that's gonna make a difference.
Yeah, I know,
and it's
right?
like so he's like, Mascara Dorada speaks English. fluently. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. I go. Neither does Volador Jr. None of those guys are fluent in English. It's like they might be able to say a few words.
Maybe that guy who calls himself Super Tramp at Cauliflower Alley put on a Moscow Dorada mask and said, "Hi, I'm Moscow Dorada."
Yeah, and I was just like, and Moscow Dorada was just retweeting that. I was like, dude, don't like. I'm sure he's probably retweeting because he has to, because it says his name on there.
Yeah.
And, it's wrestlers do that. They tweet out everything. There's this other Dragon Rojo Jr. He started, he wants to be in the Cruiserweight Classic. So he starts tagging a bunch of people on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Like, Dragon Rojo Jr., middleweight champion of CMLL, 5 years. Cruiserweight Classic. And I'm like, dude... Nobody from this isn't how you're gonna get in WWE. He started following me on Twitter and like added me into the tags. I'm like, great, another person I want to be and have tagged on this.
Does he realize what kind of a
like nobody's like you gotta like that's not how you get a job in this.
And that's the thing is you're a cool guy. What if you were a con man who?
Or what if I was an asshole and told him, dude, this isn't gonna work?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
well, worse,
it doesn't matter.
No, worse if you were a con man who said, "Hey, I'm your friend. I can get you.
I
can get you money.
Send me money or something.
Yeah, just send me and my friend who's a Nigerian prince. $5,000.
I think in the old days, that was guaranteed to happen. But I mean, it's just funny. You think Volador Jr., Mascara Dorada, Rush, all these other guys went out of their way, like tweeting them and doing this? No, they get contacted because somebody from WWE saw their match, thinks they're good, and they're gonna be interested.
Yeah.
If they see you and you're not good, you're not gonna get contacted.
Exactly.
You know? And Dragon Rojo Jr., I don't think.
And if they see
he's not at that level to get on.
And if they see you and you're good, it still might do it because different people are looking for different things. And
and you never know. I mean, I'm not saying Dragon Rojo Jr. wouldn't get booked by a
if I saw
U.S. company.
I'd say, damn, it would be kind of that guy has a cool look to him. But then there's other people who it just doesn't.
You wouldn't book him, would you? If you had $1,000.
I would think of Thunder first. I would book him.
Dragon Rojo Jr. is not high on your list for CML guys.
No. And
like if you had money to burn, if you had money to burn, you'd probably just go after like the undercard, like the good workers, obviously.
I probably would, yeah.
I mean, really, if you're gonna book talent, name talent. If you have a lot of money, you go after the name talent.
Yes.
If you have some money, you go after the guys who could work.
Yes.
Because that's what sells in in independent wrestling in the U.S. Dragon Rojo, I think, would probably go on lucha shows.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's kind of in the middle where you have to really...
if I had some money to burn, I'd probably maybe get one top name and a couple of not so top names, and
you'd have Cibernetico.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't book 10 matches.
Yeah.
That are all 8-man tags.
Because you could tell from just the promoters that run the. In Mexico, that run lucha shows kind of comparable to the indies in the U.S. The Dream, like the Dream Cards, like PWG and all those groups that do that. They don't book those guys. They book the guys who are like the hidden gems, the guys that CML doesn't do shit with.
Yes.
That we all know are really good, like Hombre Bala Jr., Star Jr., Soberano, guys like that. They don't really book Pulvera and Dragon Rojo Jr.
Right.
Who aren't bad, I mean, but they're not that. You gotta put them in against really good workers. Although I'm saying this about Dragon Rojo Jr. He had a really good match with Guerrero Maya Jr. So, but I mean Guerrero Maya Jr. is really good.
So we'll cut to the chase real quick and say that yes, I have turned heel on the LuchaWorld audience because I have betrayed them by. I have not watched Puebla in several weeks now.
And I watched it.
Yeah, you have watched it. You have watched it. So I have turned complete Rudo.
I skipped everything else in between.
Yeah. The only really wrestling involved stuff I have been doing is I have disappeared into the digital time machine.
You watched
again.
UIPW. Don't forget you watched.
I did watch UIPW.
You tried to watch. You were looking over people's heads.
I did a lot of that too. Now, been doing a lot of research. I'm hoping shortly after, by the time this show gets posted, written something on Charro Aguayo Jr.
Charro Aguayo Jr. Oh my god.
Yeah. And I'm not even on drugs. Charro Aguayo, the original, the one, the only, the
Perro's father.
I've had several people actually ask me.
Is that Perro?
Yeah. No, he's the only one in his family, as far as I know, who was in wrestling, but the first heavyweight superstar in Mexico for the Ludogorets family.
It's like the whole LA Park La Parka thing. Are they brothers or is that the same? Which one's the WCW one?
No, they were just born with the same mask. That's all.
Yes.
No, but it's fascinating because I knew he had wrestled in Texas under the name Cactus Pete Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say too much about what I found because there's a lot of fun, surprising things. But the biggest surprise was he was.
Be careful, Dave's gonna steal all your news.
That's right.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
No,
I'm kidding. Everyone.
I know, Fredo.
Doesn't mean I'm in a war with Figure 4 Weekly and Observer. Actually, I'm not. I actually get along with them.
Yeah.
They all like me. It's all right.
Hey, looking at Brian Alvarez out of retirement, I will represent LuchaWorld.
Yes.
He'll represent
hair, and my hair will go on. You'll defend my hair, and Brian will defend Dr. Lucha's hair.
Yes.
And we'll somehow we'll swerve and have Brian lose anyways.
Yes. If it's
in LA,
if I win, Dr. Lucha loses his hair. If Brian wins, Dr. Lucha loses his hair. No, man, the biggest surprise was Aguayo was probably every bit big here in the States as he was in Mexico. Especially in the Southwest, but even here in California, he got a really significant push.
Wow.
And I'm actually mildly surprised. There are several guys who are huge draws. Of course, we talked about Jimmy El Pulpo recently. Here in California, that guy was a big draw, and it's a shame there were so few videos of him, because most of the write-ups I would read about Pulpo, they would talk about how his matches would go long and are always exciting and interesting.
And then you watch and it's like, oh, this is boring.
But for people,
that's always happens. That always happens. Like,
but for people in the newspaper to actually go out of their way and say, hey, this dude's like, even when he was in openers and stuff, they'd say,
yeah.
Oh, this was like almost 30 minutes of really exciting.
You know the cool thing about like when you look at old issues of Boxy Lucha or any magazine really from I mostly Lucha on my end because I don't really I haven't seen anything from the US that much from the past. But with Lucha, it's like you have you'll have that one person who's a good reporter that is very honest. Yes. And like if it's a really bad match, he'll tell you like he doesn't want to say it's a bad match, but he kind of gives you the word. It's the wording where it's like, oh, it must have been bad. Yeah. And then like the really good matches, it's like this long write up of how great it was. And
absolutely.
Everything. Yeah.
And they can use a word like lackluster to substitute for it sucked. But who was another one? Gorilla Macias seems like he's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Here, and I don't want to go off on a rant, but it does get a little frustrating to me that a lot of the Mexican or Mexican-American stars who actually were pretty decent draws kind of just really get pushed by the wayside.
Well, because as far as what Lucha people are...
Yeah, historians. American historians. Yeah.
Oh, you're calling out your fellow historians.
Yeah, I am.
I'm not considered in that group, so...
Well, the first time I ever got really mad about it was when...
You're calling out Matt Farmer.
That's right.
Just kidding.
Yeah, he doesn't give enough attention to Lucha, you know?
Poor guy.
Really doesn't.
He does a lot. He's probably the one...
Yeah, he's done some really good
work.
That guy's really...
Well, the Arena Mexico one was really good.
That was a great article. No, the first time I ever got...
You gotta find the time to do all that stuff, too, which is...
No, it's true.
But as far as other... Oh, Steve Yohe. I know you were calling out Steve Yohe.
Steve Yohe, me... You defend Strangler Lewis, I'm going to defend
Charro
Vincent Lopez. No, but several people... I was inquiring about.
I think it's based on like what they're interested in, like the most.
Yeah.
And, you know.
One, and then this has nothing to do with what I'm not ranting about.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not considered a historian. Yeah. That way, I don't have to look through all the Lucha magazines.
Yeah, well, I don't really consider myself a historian too.
Although I should. For every time somebody passes away, I feel bad because I have to look for stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't have all this information on this.
See, you're a historian, whether
but it's like you don't have the information, you have to look for it right away. It's like, oh, I gotta look for it.
That's what historians do.
I know, but you kind of wish you had everything handy. Historians have that handy.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, in all fairness, a lot of people are after the biggest box office draws. Jim Londo, Strangler Lewis, they were the kings, and somebody like Vincent Lopez, who would be a contender, of course they were never going to give somebody like him the belt, but I guess the first time I got really angry about it was when I interviewed Luthez, because he lived in Mexico for a while.
Yeah.
Francisco Flores, paid him a good sum.
Yeah, and there's pictures of him having a ton of wrestling matches in Mexico.
And when I asked
Cubs fan just posted one earlier of him wrestling Los Espantos.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, I would have loved to have seen that. But, when I asked him about it, he says, all they do is a choreographed tumbling machine, then none of them know how to wrestle, and I've even seen matches that he was refereeing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, that was technical wrestling. That was what he was doing years ago. Maybe he was the master at doing that type of wrestling. I think
he was like the ultimate grumpy old guy that didn't like anything. Anything after him wasn't as great as when he did it.
And he said all they do is wear masks and,
jump around.
Yeah. He said choreographed tumbling routine. That was his standard.
That's what it is. That's what wrestling is. That's part of it.
Here too.
I know.
It's off the ropes.
Yes.
And then he further said, they are so unskilled at amateur wrestling. There's no such thing as amateur wrestling.
And then you read about it, and it's like I know, it's like one of those big things where, like, you hear about all these luchadors who are like 2-time, 3-time champions, and they're in their, not just nationally, but within their regions of where they're from. Yes. All types of, like, you hear, I think Hijo del Fantasma was talking about how he actually trained in amateur wrestling when he was a kid.
Bobby Bonales' son, Daniel Aceves, was a silver medalist in '84.
There's a bunch of guys. I think Nergo Navarro said he had also done some amateur wrestling, and all these other guys said that.
Yeah, and it's funny, when Scott Teal was putting out those Wrestling As We Liked It, books with, really in-depth interviews with old-timers, which are really awesome. There were 2 or 3 times where somebody would talk about, there's some world champion, just some Mexican or something.
Oh, geez.
And it really bugs me.
And it was probably Pedro Morales. Yeah. It was even more upsetting.
Yeah, really.
Would have upset all of us Mexicans.
The Puerto Ricans rock.
Yeah.
No, but I heard several people say, in Mexico, they're not much for amateur wrestling. And I remember the first person who actually gave a different viewpoint was Dan Severn. I remember when he was working one of Dan and Larry's shows. I just brought that up, and he says there's some damn good amateur wrestlers in Mexico. The reason they never place in the Olympics, he said, is like, it's not necessarily the best who get to go to the Olympics. It's who's a politician's friend or something like that. It's like, their best don't always go, but he says there's some really good amateurs in Mexico. And
maybe the other is just because they gotta wear their mask and they don't want them to wear their mask.
Yeah, that's right. Dos Cars Jr.
Yes,
the real reason he didn't place. Yeah.
Yes, it's like those. Wasn't there once like they did an angle for an MMA group and that the guy didn't want him to wear a mask or something? Or they thought they were. Something I can't remember. I gotta look for it.
Well, I know they didn't want Dos Cars to
wear something about a mask, and it was like he's not gonna wear a mask, Well, I think he actually wore the mask.
He wore the mask.
Yeah.
That one that there was that one fighter
in Deep. He wore the mask in the Deep MMA matches.
Was that the one where he gave the guy the belly to belly suplex and the guy
might have been
dislocated his elbow?
What was the group that he lost to? That other dude that got beat up really badly.
Where he lost to Mikro Kokov?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I don't know what group that was, but he got slaughtered in that one.
And he didn't wear a mask for that, did he?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Or he wore.
This is your MMA portion of the podcast. We're so
thrilled about it.
We're so horrible at remembering MMA. Like, Dave Meltzer's probably, if Dave Meltzer heard this podcast, he'd be like, "My God, you guys can't remember this," and he just corrects it. He sends you a long letter.
Then it will be me versus Brian versus Dave.
Yes.
And Dan will put his hair up for Dave. Yeah. But then the other thing Fez said, he said, well, there was one really good technical wrestler. He must have spent some time in Oklahoma. And I'm going, oh, who's that? And he goes, Dr. Wagner. I'm like, Dr. Wagner in Oklahoma? And I'm like, why Oklahoma? Says, well, Oklahoma has a really good amateur wrestling. And I'm like, and then he tells me that equestrians...
Did he not know Dr. Wagner is from Oklahoma? You should have said that.
Does he know that's Danny Hodge under the mask?
Yes. You should have said something like that. Like, well, don't you know this? How dumb are you?
But and then he said, where they get the gold and silver medals are in equestrian. And I'm saying, I don't know crap about that, but I went and looked it up, and they don't.
What is equestrian?
Like horses. Like, they've never placed in anything like that.
I think we do well in swimming. Swimming, I know for sure. Like diving. Actually, diving is the one we're good at. I don't think swimming isn't. We're not good at. It's diving.
Lismark won a gold.
Yes, Lismark won the gold medal in diving in 1984. Actually, it can't be 1984 because he was already a professional wrestler.
That's right.
That would actually end his amateur qualifications if he became a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Probably in the 1976.
That sounds right to me. Yes.
I think that's when he won the diving.
So that's my non-rant. That's an old man non-ranting about a much older man.
And we end it with.
I'm sure there's a younger man going to rant about me.
Somebody's going to Google search Lismark's Olympic diving.
Fredo Esparza knows nothing.
They're like, that's not true. It's like, dude, if you believe that shit we're making up, come on. He won it after he won the Grand Prix. Oh, speaking of, so we asked Volador Jr. about the WWE rumors.
Yes.
Which I later after the interview, I apologized to him for asking, which he said was fine. He said he was fine with it. He didn't mind answering the question because he said he never even heard about it. He's like, I didn't know anything about this. He's like, you're asking me something I didn't know about. I was like, okay. So, WWE announced all 32 participants for the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys announced was Mascara Dorada as Grand Metallic. So he'll be part of this tournament. Ah. You didn't know this?
I did not know this.
Oh, geez, this is already like a week old.
This is news to me.
Jeez.
That's why I said
I've been
lost in the history files.
The other two were Zumbi and Jinzo, who changed his name to Ronnie Mendoza, and now he's going to be Raul Mendoza, which I think is his real name in that's his actual real name, but he'll be that in the tournament.
Cool.
He's pretty good. Zumbi, I think he has a good gimmick. I actually think he might. I wouldn't be shocked if he got picked up because he does the dance and he does the Brazilian dance and all this. Mm-hmm. And they don't have anybody Brazilian. They might want to get somebody from Brazil to see if they could enter into that territory. I think Jinzo or Raul Mendoza, I think he could get in. Mascara Dorada, obviously, I think he can, but I think he's probably the less likely because they already have a couple of people from Mexico there.
Right.
With Alberto and Callisto. Callisto's not from Mexico, but, he's luchador. He's Mexican. he's Mexico no matter what. He's pretty much Mexico, even though he's from Chicago, I think. I think Mascara Dorada can get in just based on talent, but he kind of implied that he's probably just there for the tournament and likely returning for CMLL. That was the big thing. Is he gone from CMLL? Is it done? Is he official? And he told the guy from Medio Tiempo, Apollo Valdez, that he's there for the tournament, but if he's what he believes is he'll just be coming back to CMLL afterwards. That he asked for permission from Paco Alonso. Mm-hmm. Paco Alonso told him he could do whatever he wanted. And he said, okay, I'll do the tournament. And he said he asked his wife, and his wife told him, you're getting all these opportunities right now. You're young. Do it while you can.
Yes.
So he's going to do it. He went and did it. He actually left on Sunday, so he's there for the whole week.
Excellent.
I think the first round is Thursday, and then the next round is sometime in July 14th, because he's booked for a TJ show in July 15th. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he's going to be in CML in between or what's going on, but that should be interesting. That's an interesting story. The other news that came about this, I guess it was last week, former CMLL undercard wrestler Zayco passed away.
Mochokota's son. Right?
Mochokota's son. He was Tigre Kota's brother. It's like adding more. Well, I think he got shot.
That's what I had read.
Yeah, he got shot.
And wasn't there an attempt on his life previously?
Yeah, where he got stabbed seriously stabbed, where he missed a long time from. It was in his neighborhood, so it's like a rough. They say it's a rough part of a rough neighborhood.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it just a rough neighborhood?
Yeah, it's a rough neighborhood, and I think he's probably involved in some stuff. And
that's sad.
Yeah, so, But they didn't really mention more beyond that. You know,
Right.
everybody. I think everybody's like, yeah, he's dead. Let's just move on. You know. You know, it's weird. It's weird. Well, it's Mexico because they bury him right away.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where it's
24 hours.
Yeah. So it's like because one of the guys when that news came out, there were a bunch of people who were like, what's the rest of the news? And one of the guys immediately got a hold of I guess I don't know if he got a hold of Mochocota or somebody who knew him, and he had actually said that he was on his way to pick up his son's body to take it back home and bury him. So yeah, it's really sad.
That is sad.
Yeah, he looked like he was like in that rough type of crew setting. So
Now, I always wonder. I've never even asked, like, why is there a rush for the burial? Is there any reason, specific reason, or is it just?
I don't know, it's probably some cultural thing.
Yeah.
Really, something.
I've always wondered.
Yeah, because I think here, even if you're, I don't know, I don't think we're not only are we Mexican, but we're also Catholic. Mm-hmm. We never deal with like, yeah, you want to bury him right away, but it's not something that.
Because I think
take your time, you know. Take your time.
Go ahead. The only funerals I've gone to, the funeral's like a good week after.
Well, with us,
passing.
For us, I think, like my uncle's funeral, I think it was right like the day after they did that thing where you go see him.
Yes, the viewing.
Yeah. And then the day after that is the the funeral.
Yeah.
But I think it's a 2-day process. But it's like it's not like, maybe it's a Catholic thing. I don't know. But I think it's more of a cultural thing than anything else. It's weird. It's sad. Mm-hmm. It's always sad. Rush did an interview and he revealed a bunch of stuff. First of all, he was talking about the Grand Prix and he's in CMLL's Grand Prix and he's also in Lucha Elite's Copa Mundial, which is another tournament. Like everybody's doing tournaments. Like there is a bunch of like there was the LuchaWorld Cup. There was, I think, the Liga Elite that we talked about with Volador Jr. He was talking about how, hey, he's getting a good bunch of good singles matches, and like I think they already forgot about that because Mascara Dorada's not going to be around for that to end it. I think some of the other guys also are having issues because they're going to be in other stuff. And then there's the Copa Mundial, the Grand Prix, the the Cruiserweight Classic, the Super Juniors, the G1 Climax starts in a couple of weeks. There's like 10 there's I think there's gonna be like 10 tournaments within
tournaments everywhere.
Yes, tournaments everywhere. And we're still waiting for En Busca de un Ídolo for CMLL, you know. So Rush was asked about all the people that were coming in to work the show, and it's Rush. It was at the press conference for Lucha Elite's announcement for their tournament, and he's like, honestly, I'm not really impressed with any of these guys. he was like, it's not like they're bringing. He's like, yeah, they're okay guys, but it's like none of these are big names. They're not names that I would be impressed with. Like they're not bringing in like the biggest names, like the legendary Japanese wrestlers or these huge American wrestlers. Like it's like I don't even know how. Like I think I don't think he knew any of those. I'm pretty sure Volador Jr. wouldn't even know half those guys that are in that tournament.
Probably.
I don't think you like if you put. That's something we gotta do. Like next time we interview Volador Jr., we need to bring pictures of wrestlers and see who we could figure out.
Have you seen this man?
Do you know who this guy is? Like just that game where they tell you, do you know who this guy
right.
is? And we'll show him like somebody who's in like a wrestler and see if he thinks it's somebody. So yeah, he wasn't impressed with anybody in that. Then they asked him about Andrade Cien Almas debut in NXT, and he said that he got more annoyed with Mexican fans who were really picking on him for Almas for not being able to speak proper English, and they're like, why the fuck should you guys care if he doesn't speak proper English? You guys are Mexicans, you should support him. It's okay, like if Americans are thinking that, it's like because if they want him to speak English, hire somebody to teach them to speak English,
Exactly.
Send them to school, get them one of those Ingles sin barreras, Rosetta Stone, all those. Get him that stuff. If you really want him to learn English.
Go old school, give him a mouthpiece. Give him a manager.
So they're like,
they don't do that
and
anymore.
But I think his whole thing was like, he doesn't understand why Mexico. He's like, you guys should be supporting him. Be glad that he's there. Representing your country.
Yeah, some people are never happy.
Yeah, so then they get to Dragon Lee, and he was talking about Dragon Lee, and when we were interviewing Volador Jr. and I asked him about when he found out he was going to be in the Best of the Super Junior, he kind of implied he didn't know. He didn't really know. He didn't know like that quickly. Like it was something that just came about.
Yeah.
They asked, with all the Cruiserweight Classic stuff going on, Rush said that Dragon Lee was one of the guys who was supposedly going to be in that tournament. Mm-hmm. He was the first call that WWE made.
Really?
So I guess when they couldn't get him, but apparently what Rush was saying that Dragon Lee was going to be so busy that he wasn't going to be able to make it to that thing anyways. And I think it was the New Japan stuff that he was going to be a part of. I'm guessing it was that. I mean, and maybe he was going to be representing CML in all those tournaments too. But then he was saying then he got hurt. Then he said Dragon Lee got hurt, so like it didn't matter anyways. It's like, but then he said he's 20 years old. He's like he's got plenty of time to do this stuff. So it's like he's not. I don't think he should be worried about this stuff.
No big rush.
Yeah. Yeah,
Rush
so that was.
There's no big rush.
Yeah, no rush for Dragon Lee, says Rush. Earlier Tuesday, CML had Informa, and they had Reiko Meta and Barbara Carbonario as guests, and on the show they signed contracts for a hair match.
Ooh,
that's going to happen on July 1st in the Grand Prix pay-per-view.
Oh,
you're screwed. You're not going to watch it.
I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to be in Europe.
Yep, you're screwed. Well, you can watch it when it airs on Azteca.
Yeah,
like a month later.
Look forward to when I get home.
Yeah, or I'm pretty sure it'll air on in Japan. So.
No, that's something I am gonna look forward to seeing.
Yeah, so
that should be so cool.
So that match is happening, and the Grand Prix match, which is going to be like all the Mexico versus the world.
Yes.
They had Sam Adonis and Johnny Idol on the show, two of the foreign guys. Sam Adonis, I was telling you that we were making fun of his voice because he sounds like a radio DJ.
Oh yeah, you were telling me.
He's got this, but all he talks about is like he's trying to be like the cool Rudo, where he's like talking about chicas and all this stuff. He's fluent in Spanish. He speaks enough Spanish where he could get by.
Right.
And Johnny Idol's from New Zealand. He's small. He's a smaller guy. Sam Adonis is a pretty big guy. He kind of has a cool look for him as a Rudo.
I love the name Sam Adonis.
And he calls himself Sweetness.
It sounds so sounds so contradictory.
Yeah. So, and he looks like he could, like, they had their debut in Puebla. Mm-hmm. And you could kind of tell that they were, like, lost in the match at certain points.
They had to get accustomed to the style.
because you could see Ultimo Girl kind of moving them to the side and doing stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then there was at one point, they asked Sam Adonis what happened to his lip. And he was saying that what happened was he got chopped by Diamante Azul. And when Diamante Azul chopped him, he hit his face. So he cut his lip. And then Johnny Idol did this dive to the outside on Sam Adonis, except Sam Adonis like a foot away. So Johnny Idol, you hear his back just hit the floor, like those. It's like those hardwood floors, like the wooden floors. It's like, oh my goodness.
Ouch.
Yeah, but I think Adonis, from what I've seen, he kind of looks like he could hang with the main event guys. He's not bad. He's not bad. Like it'll probably take him a while just to get used to working with some of those guys, but he's not as bad as Thunder or Pure Oath.
Well, Thunder was just plain clueless.
Yeah, he can bump a little better too, so a lot better.
And I've seen guys who would go into a different territory years ago, and you could tell they're not quite acclimated to the style, but some can pick it up quickly.
Yeah, he kind of looks, and Johnny Idol kind of looks like what the Japanese dudes that just joined CML looked like when they debuted, where he kind of looked green in the ring.
Yes.
But he kind of looks like he has some potential.
Oh, very cool.
And I guess they both plan on staying a little longer in Mexico.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I know Adonis said he was going to be there. He was hoping to be there for a while, whereas Idol said he really wants to stay there because Idol was saying in New Zealand there's not as much wrestling, so he wants to be in Mexico where he's like there's a lot of wrestling. He's like there's a lot of he said he wants to get experience.
Yeah,
and it really works. Both of them it'll work because if they stay in CMLL or work in Mexico, that's a good way to get to like indie wrestling in the U.S., Japan. Mm-hmm. And maybe back in WWE or something especially for Adonis.
Right.
Idol hasn't been in WWE, but maybe he could get like he's small enough where he'd probably get exposure where he'd be in like the indie groups in the US that means something. Probably Japan. Who knows? Maybe New Japan would see them and be interested. So yeah, they should be good. And then next week. Actually, this weekend, I think Kushida and Michael Elgin, all those guys the New Japan guys show up. So
very cool.
Should be good. Well, some of those guys are going to be in that Lucha Elite tournament. Mm-hmm. Let me turn the light on because I can't see.
Okay, yeah, it's getting dark here at Walnut Kills.
Yeah,
and you want to keep the light on because there's all sorts of people trying to stalk you outside because this is Walnut Kills.
Let me see, Lucha Libre Elite. Actually, a couple of matches you guys should watch. Barbara Carbonaro, Reiko Meta from June 10th, the title match. Yes. Actually, all of these were title matches. Dragon Rojo Jr. versus Guerrero Maya Jr. also good. I watched Ultimo Guerrero versus Valiente from this past Friday.
I was curious about that.
Really good. Really good. It's the typical. First two falls are boring, quick and boring, and the third fall was really good. The one thing Valiente tried the Valiente special, and for the first time in a long time, he almost he the one good thing, the same thing that happened to Jaguar de Oro, remember?
Yes.
Where he couldn't do the dive, so he bounced. He bounced right back into the ring because he lost the balance, and he hit a tope. But there's a big difference between the guys in that match
between Valiente
and Ultimo Guerrero versus Jaguar de Oro and Sombra Bernal. And
I was gonna say even him losing his balance slightly, Valiente is one of those guys. He does it like he's going for a walk.
Yes. So I was like, oh my god, he missed it. Then in the third fall, they do this really cool spot where Ultimo Guerrero is doing the senton of death. Mm-hmm. In the corner where he does the senton.
Yes,
Where he stands, where he's like head on the turnbuckle and then drops. Well, when he goes up to do that, Valiente stands up and shoves him off the ropes. Mm-hmm. So it looks really cool. It just falls off.
Nice.
So then right after that, Valiente hits the Valiente special to the outside. Oh, so he got it the second time. Sweet. But it's really cool. They kicked out of a bunch of kicked out of a bunch of falls and everything.
Valiente is one of those guys.
But he's awesome. It's sad when they always go to that spot where Ultimo Guerrero sits in the corner, and you're like, don't go to the corner. Don't go to the corner because you know what's going to happen. He's going to get you. He's going to get you a power bomb or a suplex or the Guerrero special, and he gets him in the Guerrero special. It's like it's over.
It's like it's like that one time on Raw a number of years ago where Ric Flair does his turnbuckle bump and then runs up to do the body press, and Jerry Lawler says, "No, Rick, don't do it. It never works."
Yeah, because it becomes predictable. And when you're watching these same guys like 2-3 times a week, for like the past 15 years,
and
it's
you know why they do it. Yes. But it is predictable.
Yeah, and Ultimo Guerrero's really I think he's kind of gotten a lot more popular. Mm-hmm. In the last couple, he's always been very popular, but ever since he stopped that feud with Thunder, and he's been working with really good workers, it kind of seems like it's brought up back a little bit more of the Ultimo Guerrero aura,
right?
Because he kind of lost it a bit, when he was feuding with Thunder.
Totally.
Because the whole Guerrero group, it was because it was always Rudos versus Rudos, and it was always boring.
I still think that he had some bet going with somebody where they said, "I bet you can't make Thunder look good."
Yeah, because
I bet I can.
I think since he. And he's also
the bad.
He's also working a lot of the indie shows where he's when he wrestles Pagano and those guys, it's doesn't really matter. But when he's wrestling Kaifan or Hechicero, it's holy crap! This is where was Ultimo Guerrero all these years? It's the opposite of Nero Casas, because Nero Casas every year he doesn't get booked against these shitty workers all the time.
Exactly.
Or even if he works with shitty workers, he's small enough where he can get away with it, because he just bounces off them. Whereas Ultimo Guerrero tries to work his match. Versus those same guys.
And it is so odd how he was the one paired with Thunder. I mean, it had to be his call.
Yeah.
I mean,
he probably looked at Sam Adonis. He's like, "Holy shit, this guy's so much better than why didn't we get this?" He should have told Johnny Idol, "I thought everybody from New Zealand was bad."
Yes, I thought everybody was stiff and
from Australia,
like Stretch Armstrong. It's just.
Yeah, it's so funny. I watched a couple of matches from those two guys before they debuted from other places they'd been. I didn't know Sam Adonis had been in WWE. He was in developmental.
I did not know that.
Then again, I didn't really know who Sam Adonis was before this. So I started watching. I saw him wrestle this one guy, Dean Allmark from Great Britain. Really good match. I actually think that guy should be brought into he should be somebody who should be brought in Dean Allmark.
Rowan Law Anth. I only saw a little bit of it, but he showed me some recent action from Britain. And there are some damn.
Yeah, there's a lot of good talent over there.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys coming to the U.S. and getting Zack Sabre Jr., all these other guys getting the
And I kicked myself for not taking some notes. We only watched about maybe 15 minutes, but it's a combination of what you see here in the States today combined with that old school
from Britain.
style.
Yeah, and they're bringing it back.
Really.
Yeah, so that's what he was doing. Although he was a little more of a high flyer, so he was doing a little more of that. But Adonis is such a big guy that it worked with him. Johnny Idol, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of like one of those guys that might have worked in MPW, like not the bad workers, but the ones that look like Ryan Taylor, but they're not Ryan Taylor. Can't remember that guy, that one dude who was pretty good.
That guy Brandon.
No, that dude, the one that used to do the foot stomp.
Yes.
I can't remember his name,
either.
But he was on the shows. I don't know what happened to him afterwards. He might still be around. But that dude, one of those dudes, where it's like they got that body where they're kind of built, but they're still not built.
Yeah.
And then they do like these weird gimmicks. So he's got braids in a show in New Zealand. He's got braids, and he looked like he had potential, but he didn't look that good. And then I saw him wrestling in a DTU match in Mexico versus Tony from the Nerds, and I can't remember who the other guy was. The third guy was somebody who was the name also. I can't remember who it was, but it was a 3-way match, and he didn't look as good. He looked good, but it wasn't like it's like just a 3-way match, and fans were all over the place, just like some were watching, somewhere. It looked like a convention or something, but he looked like he has potential.
Cool.
And they have some. There's some new talent there.
Cool.
Konan's podcast is crazy.
Oh, do tell! This is always.
I just love it's constantly about him just shitting on AAA every single. Like, basically anything. If you're wondering why AAA doesn't do something, the answer to that question is going to be AAA is disorganized. Mm-hmm. That's basically all. Like if you wonder why is AAA not running Verano de Scandalo now, or why'd they cancel it? AAA is disorganized. Why isn't this guy booked on the show? AAA is disorganized. That's basically all you pretty much have to know. And he was just he's just ripping on Dorian Roldan and Joaquin. Dorian Roldan, he calls Mexican Cartman. He calls him Mexican Cartman.
Wait! He shouldn't say that because people would be tempted to tune in.
Yeah, but he's just being like. But it's like it's like.
Do you think now? Is he doing it so much that it's almost?
Well, apparently Dorian sent him told him. I guess he's
cease and desist.
To stop saying bad shit about AAA. But he's like, I'm not saying. Konan's like, why would I stop? I'm not saying anything bad. It's like everything. If they ask me, it's all true. And I Hijo del Fantasma was on the show, and the one thing I will say, the Hijo del Fantasma, if you guys haven't heard, if you guys don't want to hear the Konnan ripping on AAA because you don't like that or whatever,
right?
Listen to the Konnan interviewing Hijo del Fantasma because it's really good. It's a really unlike the MLW one was pretty good,
yes,
which was in English, but this one in Spanish was with Hijo del Fantasma was really good because he talked more about all the stuff he was talking about his first gimmick was being Top Secret. The
that
character,
was his gimmick called
Top Secret for Hijo Fantasma when he was going to debut, and they asked him where to get that gimmick, and he said that was his dad's original name that he was going to have.
No way.
Top Secret, but when he was going to use that name, the guy who used to run the commission, who's Estrellita's grandfather, I forgot his name. His last name was Rafael Baradas. He at that time the commission wouldn't allow English words for lucha names.
Really?
So he told me he couldn't use that name. So he told Fantasma that he placed high in as far as the people who were going to get into lucha. The guy decided he would look over while he was talking to him, he was looking at the newspaper and saw a comic strip, and in the comic strip there was the Phantom.
Oh yes.
Comic. So he decided to give him the name Phantasma. And I just laughed because I was like, "Oh, copyright is perfectly fine, but an English name."
Yeah.
So when Hijo del Fantasma decided to wrestle, he decided to use the gear that his dad had from the 70s because the dad had actually made the gimmick, had actually come up with the gear and everything, and then he was told he couldn't use it, so it's kind of like he still kept it. So Hijo del Fantasma used that gear, and he's like, it's like really. Hijo del Fantasma was like, it was really cool because it was 1970s gear. It's like it was made of that time, and it's like so
has
it was
that
very,
traditional.
Yeah, so he's like, it looked cool, and I was like, and so he was talking about that. Then he talked about his time in CMLL, although he wasn't as, he kind of was still kind of bitter about it. Mm-hmm. But he explained why it happened. Like he talked about he gave out all the information on the WWE tryout from 2011, I think. It was 2011.
What did he say about
the names that were there? Were like, he was talking about how Sombra was there. The obvious names for Sombra, the four obvious names were him, Sombra, Volador Jr., and Averno. I think those were the four names that Meltzer had.
Remember when Averno, that was the big rumor?
Yeah, because I think Caristico had already been rumored before that he had a spot whenever he wanted to go when he was Mystico, but he didn't. I don't think he was part of that tryout. So then they had that tryout when it was those four, and where was Mystico back then? He was still in CML, right? He just didn't go to that tryout.
I think so.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah.
So then they had those four. And then Hijo Fantasma said that it wasn't just them four. It was also included Daga, Hijo de LA Park, Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., some other people, and Mascarita Dorada, who later became El Torito.
Yes.
So he was saying that he got a lot of the blame because he speaks English. It's like, so CML thought, the people in charge thought, he must have gotten them. But, it's so silly because if you remember back then, I think that was, they ran shows in Mexico. Remember, CMLL people in the office were posting pictures of them at WWE shows. Oh. I remember that because I remember there being, I think Jose Luis Feliciano was at one of those shows. So it's like, it's kind of stupid. Why would you get upset over that?
Yeah, really.
So then, he was talking about how he was the one that impressed the first day. He's like, and then the second day, what they did was they had a lucha, told them all to have a lucha match. He's like, and they had these really good, like, he's like, really good lucha match, what we did back then in Arena, Mexico. And he's like, and then we had to go do promos. But he said before that, he's like, Mascarita Dorada was asked to do something. So Mascarita Dorada was asked to do something with, God, I can't remember who he said. I'm thinking it was Ricardo Rodriguez.
Oh, okay, yes.
And so he said, Mascarita Dorada climbs into the ring, gets on the top rope, and does this like flip, and like lands on Ricardo and flips him over or something. And as soon as they saw that, Hijo Fantasma said that Michael P.S. Hayes comes out with his fanny. He's wearing a fanny pack, and he runs out there and tells him to stop. He's like, "Stop! I'm writing Mascarita Dorada's story." Like
really?
he already wanted.
That's all he needed to see.
That's all he needed to see.
Wow.
He was that impressed, and Hijo Fantasma was saying that he remembers the first time. I think it was about Hijo Fantasma who said it, that he remembers the first time he saw Mascarita Dorada, because Konnan started talking about it more. He said he remembers the first time he saw Mascarita Dorada. He's like, yeah, he does flips and all that stuff because he's a mini. He's gonna do all these cool stuff. He's like, but I didn't realize how good of a wrestler he actually was.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was a good technical wrestler.
Remember that live match we saw at Wrestle Reunion?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And remember I had told you before that, I go, you've got to watch his mat wrestling. Like, nobody ever mentioned his mat wrestling. They would always mention how good he was at doing flips and all that stuff. And yeah, with Damos, but he would do like this really good. He was very good. Like, and so Konnan was talking, this led to Konnan talking about how when he brought in Mascarita Dorada, he was the one that was trying to get Mascarita Dorada to jump from CML to AAA. So he's the one that convinced them. So then he said, when they brought him to AAA, he's like, we get this great worker, and what is he doing? Maybe getting one or two matches per month. He's like, and Mascarita Dorada, the reason he left AAA was because they weren't getting him bookings.
Wow.
And he's like, and so that led to Konnan trashing Copete Salazar again. Hijo Fantasma stayed quiet that part, but he was like, but Konnan, that gave Konnan enough time to just like...
Now, okay, Konnan's spending a lot of time...
I'm curious how they... it's so funny. Dorian sends them this letter, but Konnan's still getting AAA people to do this podcast.
That's interesting.
He's had Pentagon Jr., he's had Sexy Star, and he's had Hijo Fantasma on his podcast.
Interesting.
And it's a Spanish podcast.
That's
He can't get the CML... I haven't seen CML people on the show, so there's obviously...
Well, probably because
Paco,
says,
yes.
If I even see you sitting next to Konnan,
and he's pretty much told everybody that they can't be around Konnan.
I mean, here's my question: is Konnan bringing up AAA so frequently that okay, let's say even if he's 100% right about everything he says, does it almost make him look PI'd, like a...
Yeah, it looks like he's pissed off the entire time, but I mean...
Yeah, I mean, because, you can kind of make yourself look bad if you don't, like, let it go eventually.
Yeah, and, and some of the stuff it's valid, like, because they asked him, how come these people didn't talk when they were working for AAA? He's like, they can't. They got a job. I mean, how are they going to talk? That's understandable.
And that's true in the industry anywhere. You didn't hear Jim Cornette rip on WWE
while he was there, yeah.
But
I'm sure he thought it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he thought it. Not only did he think it, he probably said it to them, like, when they would have meetings and stuff, but it wasn't...
Because he's Jim Cornette.
Yes, and Konnan's the same way. Konnan said, he said, you don't think I told these people this stuff when I was there? He's like, but I wasn't going to make it public. He's like, but I would say it. And, not for, like, it wasn't told to me directly, but it's Konnan, like, his thoughts on Dorian Roldan and the family, there was really only, like, maybe during the Lucha Underground, like, the 2 year, the year that Lucha Underground started, that may have been the only time where Konnan thought highly of the Roldan family in reality. Because there were points before that and it wasn't him telling me. He would do podcasts where he would talk like they didn't know anything, like Dorian didn't know anything about wrestling. And then he's all of a sudden, he knows a lot. He's a guy. He's one of those guys who's like keeps up with the not just what is his thing where it's like he keeps up with stuff outside of wrestling with the pop culture, the trends and all that.
Yeah,
like it's like, dude, there's a lot of people who keep up with trends that aren't really good promoters either. So.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
So it's like, but I think it's his show. I think it's entertaining, and I get a lot of people like when I recap it on Twitter, people are like getting worked up over it because it's like. It's interesting.
And that's probably his intention.
Yeah, it's interesting. And some of it is him being on. Like he was asked if he could take any current wrestlers to WCW in the '90s, who would he pick? And he mentioned Rush, Mascara Dorada, Flamita, Volador Jr., and somebody else. And a couple people were like, "Well, how come he didn't pick anyone from AAA? It's weird." And I said, "Oh, he didn't pick AAA people because the people from AAA he would pick are working for Lucha Underground." And I go, these fantasy booking questions, they're subject to interpretation because, like if I asked you to book CMLL, you're probably going to think, you're only thinking about maybe the Friday show.
Right.
And not really thinking about anything else, or you're thinking about something else,
Yeah.
It's like subject to interpretation.
Well, and you and I have talked about this, and almost every other person who's a wrestling fanatic when they were kids, you fantasy book stuff. When I was a teenager, I fantasized about being a promoter, and I created my own stars.
About that. I don't know what you're fantasizing about. Just kidding.
Well, that's a whole different story. We're talking about Devil Massage.
Yeah, wrestling.
Wrestling. Yeah, that's a different fantasy. No, but you think about how you would book a show, how you construct the matches. I never thought about using wrestlers in existence. I'd think about stars I would, wrestlers I'd create.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah, but the thing is, I never want to hear anybody's fantasy booking, not because I don't think they have good ideas, because in your fantasy, you never have somebody having a hissy fit about doing a job, about somebody showing up in no condition to perform, people missing and that's just a little tiny grain of everything that can go wrong.
But you know what's so funny? You know what's so funny about this? Because people were pointing out the whole Lucha Underground thing, and I thought that he didn't pick Lucha Underground AAA people, and I'm like, why are you guys so shocked about that? I'm shocked he likes Rush. Because remember there was that one podcast that he did in MLW where someone asked, what do you think about Rush? And he said he looked like a fag.
I remember that. Yes, I do.
That was one that you heard. I was like, that's a complete 180. But it's like sometimes he says stuff without knowing. And it's like, because I remember when he said that about Rush, I'm like, why would you say that? He's actually a really good, like, he was already good at that point.
Yes.
It's like he was already having, I think that he was having that feud with Negro Casas when he said that. It was like right in between, like it was that summer. I'm thinking it was the summertime of that feud in 2014. I was like, man, dude, come on. Volador Jr. I don't think he would ever talk to Konnan. I don't think they would vibe,
I don't picture it. Yeah, I agree with you.
No. I think he's been warned about him.
So any other news on the horizon?
Well, AAA, the news, Dr. Wagner Jr. is going to be the next challenger for Tejano Jr. for the world title, and Pentagon Jr. is challenging Zayco Clown for the AAA Latin American title. But everything else is basically Pagano main eventing. So, you know,
Pagano is the new four-letter word. He's the new Thunder, right?
Yes.
I mean,
but you know, it's weird. Unlike Thunder, there's a lot of people like in Lucha who think he's got like something, charisma or something, and he does the death matches. But I don't really see it. He can't wrestle worth
and I have to. I think I've only seen him once, so I can't really say.
Dude, I watched that. Hey, look. Anybody who wants to disagree with me, I'm the one person who covers Lucha who actually watched the Pagano Trauma 2, Trauma 1 match. And I was actually okay with watching that match. I didn't think it was that bad, but that was basically Trauma being really good.
Right, being able to carry him.
Being able to carry him, and Pagano, I mean, there's stuff that he does in a match where it's like, just like, it's Thunder quality. Where it's like,
jeez, wow.
Like he's not.
Now I'm going to have to watch some of his stuff just to say I've seen it, because, yeah, I've been hearing just a lot of negative... the two people I hear negative buzz about are him and Pierrot. And I have seen Pierrot.
Yeah,
It's like, wow.
Yeah. Well,
I've seen people are starting to make memes comparing Pierrot to Pierrot, like... This is Pierrot, not this guy.
Oh, really?
I wish I could remember saying clever stuff. Yeah, but I've seen several different ones where you can tell you're not the only one who's livid.
I feel bad for everybody whose like favorite wrestler was Pierrot, Norberto Salgado.
Yes,
because he was a really good. Like he wasn't the greatest wrestler. Because I mean, I think by
he was cool.
By 2000, he wasn't very good. But from 91 or 92, whenever he was really like at his peak, to 1998, 99. He was really good. And
talk about somebody who was awesome on the mic.
Even he was great on the mic.
Yeah, even though he didn't do a lot of mic work, that guy was just... And I have to say, every now and then we bring up that empty arena match in Pomona that I wrestled on, and he was in there. And I just have to say, that was the only time I ever met him, but I gotta say... he seemed like a really nice person. He is super nice to all the locals. And I remember he was even teaching Bobby Bradley's like 5-year-old son how to do Hindu squats, and he just seemed like a good guy.
You hear a lot of nice things about him, like from Luchador.
Yeah, when I heard about his health problems, that was one time. Just from meeting him that one time, I just felt really sad when I heard about.
You know, Sam Adonis. They asked him about how big of a Lucha fan he was, or if he had watched Lucha Mexican wrestling before. And he actually said that he was a fan of Lucha. He said, and mentioned he liked some of the great rudos like Bestia Salvaje.
Really?
Emilio Charles Jr., Satanico. Oh. And I'm like, he's naming like guys, and I'm like, maybe this guy actually isn't that bad, you know?
If you watch, Lord, that's
I don't
awesome.
know if because I mean, I don't think he... Maybe somebody told him, but even like
I don't picture him pulling those two names out of his ass just as a reference.
Especially
you know what I mean?
Like from current fans, in Mexico, they wouldn't name those guys because most of the fans would be mentioning like current wrestlers, like Pentagon Jr. and stuff like that. And this guy knew names like
if he wanted to name drop about who he grew up seeing, he'd say, Hijo de Santo, or something like that.
Or he'd talk about current guys, Cibernetico, Timo Guerrero, guys like that. And he was talking, I'm like, holy shit, he's talking about this.
Now, was it last night when he debuted on Pueblo?
Monday, yeah.
Okay, Monday. Now I want to watch it just to see him.
I think he
gets points in my book just for that alone.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think he'd end up getting another shot in WWE. He probably got there because he was pretty green at the time.
Yes.
And when you're at that point or really young, you're not really that prepared.
You're not prepared, and even if you're the best wrestler in the world, it's still a crapshoot.
Yeah.
If they like you, they like you. If they don't, I mean...
Lucha Underground.
Lucha Underground, go for it.
Lucha Underground.
Go for it.
Last 2 weeks, I'm very upset because I lost internet. On the June 8th episode.
This is how you get Fredo seriously
I was really upset
pissed off.
Because I didn't have internet and I couldn't tweet about Lucha Underground, which is one of the things I enjoy doing.
I was very, very hurt.
But hold on, this is what really got me upset.
Okay.
So they show they had this match where it was 6 versus 6, and one of the pictures was Flamita, and I was like, holy shit, Flamita's gonna be on this show. I am excited. and they go to commercial break. They come back from commercial break. There is no Flamita. There is Chavo Guerrero Jr. in the match. I'm like, what the fuck?
Somebody was playing a joke on you.
But wait. Pentagon Jr. rolls in his wheelchair, his electronic wheelchair, and beats up Chavo Guerrero Jr. and gets him out of the match. So Pentagon Jr. joins in.
That's awesome.
And this was a good match.
He did a Brian Pillman in the ECW. Yes. That is awesome.
Pentagon Jr. I don't think there's a guy who in the last 2 years has gotten like this guy. If this guy ever if he ever wanted to, I think he could be a star in WWE.
Well, he's one of those guys. Even with what limited lucha I was watching, I thought, man, this is one dude overdue for a push. When he first started, he was a great like what you saw was he was a great base for his brother Phoenix, and for other technicals. But you really didn't see the rest of it. But once they let him talk, first of all, once they gave him the gimmick, and he instead of him staying with the gimmick as the Pentagon, the traditional one, and this is something he mentioned how when he's in one of Konnan's interviews, this was actually a good part. He said he got the Pentagon gimmick, and you remember how it was like it looked like octagon, just with white and black. He said he looked at himself in the mirror and he said, it doesn't scare me. Like the look doesn't scare me. So he went and asked the Roldans if it was okay if he changed it. So he redid the entire gimmick. Wow, really?
The entire look and everything, and now he looks like a badass. Like he looks like a badass. Like this could be like.
And it's funny. He looks like an old school badass.
Yeah.
Like he looks like somebody you'd see as
somebody would walk in an alley and beat the shit out of you.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He would be Santo's enemy in one of the old movies.
Yeah,
one of the black and white Santo movies.
And and you look at him and the way they book him, he's so well booked in Lucha Underground. It's like. Wish AAA would finally figure out how to use them, and I think they're starting to. But that guy's like, I think he's like the one guy in Mexico besides Rush, who has a shot to be like a huge star in Mexico right now. Yes. So he was great. The opening match was Killshot versus Marty the Moth Martinez. That was skippable. That was okay. They're feuding. Marty the Moth took away those what are those the dog tags?
Oh yeah,
the military. Killshot's dog tags, so he got upset, so they fought over him. He took him back and all this stuff.
Kind of a throwaway.
Yeah, kind of throwaway. They had an Aerostar and Drago versus Jack Evans and PJ Black. Oh, PJ Black is supposed to be in that Lucha Elite match.
Oh, really?
But he's in Lucha Underground, so that kind of seems. Although he retweeted somebody who posted the poster for. With him on it, so that's really weird. I'm kind of curious if he's going to be there. It's going to be interesting. Thursday's going to be interesting. Although he's not going to be there on Saturday because I think he's doing Lucha Underground. And I think he's at an autograph signing in LA also. So yeah. So that I think he's not going to be there for Saturday. So that's weird. I'm not sure about that. They had a match: Jack Evans, PJ Black versus Aerostar Drago nunchucks match.
A nunchucks match.
They had nunchucks around the building, hanging around. So they had to figure out ways to get them. They would get them down and they would use them. So at one point you see PJ Black climb on Jack Evans climb on PJ Black's shoulders and get some nunchucks, and they start beating the shit out of each other with the nunchucks. I mean, it's kind of a silly match, but it was fun.
Right.
It was actually a good match. But Jack Evans is such a great heel on this show. Like, I think that's the other guy. He's probably. Pentagon Jr. is a great babyface for the role he is, just a badass.
Yeah.
Not necessarily babyface, but just a badass guy.
Yes, yeah.
That he's going to be a babyface.
It's like I said, whenever...
Stone Cold, kind of like Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Jack Evans is a great heel. Like, he's a dick. He's an asshole. Like, he's a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was the last time I watched AAA with any regularity was when he was a heel. So
yeah.
And I just thought
but on this show...
That guy is just...
Yeah, but on this show, it's so much better because he screams during the match. He starts yelling, he takes away the mic from Melissa Santos and lets her... He introduces himself because Melissa Santos can't do it do it properly.
He is like one of the most unique wrestlers I've ever seen.
Yeah. Like, you watch that and you're like, oh, now he's finally reached the potential. Then they had the 6 versus 6 match with the winning team would then face the following week in a 6-way match where the winner would face Matanza at Ultima Lucha.
Yes.
So the 6 versus 6 match was really good. It was like 12, 13 minutes long. It was good. They also had Mr. Cisco being what's that called when they're the police have you? They're interrogating him. Mm-hmm. They're interrogating him, and they tell him that he has to help them, and he's like, "I'm not going to help the police." He was all pissed at Joey Ryan and Ricky Reyes. Mm-hmm. So they give him the option. He could go to prison or he could help them.
Right.
So he decides to help him. He's like, "What do I have to do to help you?" He's like, he's got to wear a wire. Mm-hmm. To get Dario Cueto to talk about some of the stuff that he's done illegally.
Yes.
So that's one of them. The other one, Katrina, woke up Mil Muertes, who was dead. He was in this casket with a glass cover mm-hmm. in King Cuerno's cabin. Mm-hmm. Where he has all these, all the trophies of dead animals that he's killed.
Right.
And Mil Muertes is one of them.
Oh my God.
So Mil Muertes, no, he's in the casket. He's in the casket with glass. And Katrina woke him up, so now he's back. And then that whole fireball thing is just upsetting. So then the following week they had the 6-way match. I actually thought the start of it was kind of boring because they had a lot of. I think there was too many people, and they were trying to get too many people involved. Right. It wasn't bad, but it was just too many people. The end of it was I think it was Johnny Mundo. As they eliminated, because it was an elimination match, as they went on, it was Pentagon Jr., Phoenix, and Johnny Mundo at the end. Mm-hmm. That's when it got really good. Ah. And then it got really good when Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix were the last two, and Pentagon Jr. won. He'll face Matanza at the Ultima Lucha. The other match for Ultima Lucha is Dragon Azteca Jr. versus Black Lotus. Mm-hmm. Black Lotus is that Asian woman, remember that?
Yes, the one that they were teasing the first season.
So she's going to face him, which I'm sure is going to be boring.
Yeah.
Unless she's really developed into this really good worker. And
surprise us all, yes.
I kind of feel bad for Dragon Azteca Jr. because I think a lot of the matches when they face the trios matches that he's been in, sometimes there's a woman in the other trio, and he always ends up being the one facing the woman. And it's it's Taya, and
maybe he's the one with the carrying ability, so
he's
or doesn't mind.
And it's Prince Puma and Ray versus the really good workers. It's poor.
And he's sent in to do the duty.
He does get to do some spotlight stuff like dives and stuff like that, but it's Black Lotus versus Dragon Azteca. I'm guessing somebody's going to get involved in that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's Lucha Underground the last 2 weeks. This week they have something with God, I'm trying to remember. I think there's more Jack Evans this week, so that's good.
So it's worth watching for that alone.
Yeah, Jack Evans and Pentagon Jr. have been the standouts for me this season.
Very cool.
Yeah, really enjoyed this season.
Excellent, excellent.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
This is your last show?
My last show until I return from another continent.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna miss you, Kurt.
I'm gonna miss you, Fredo, man.
Oh, I gotta mention, I gotta recommend this podcast. It's only 30 minutes long, 35 minutes long, this podcast. Uh-huh. It's done by these two promoters from AIW, from the Cleveland, Ohio area. Mm-hmm. It's called The Card Is Going to Change. It is a great podcast because they talk about all their experiences promoting.
Ooh.
So they've talked about Big Man Vader,
just having to deal with
him.
Oh wow!
They have this great story about Kamala, how Kamala couldn't. They really. I mean, these guys. I don't want to I don't know. Maybe it's because they're. I don't want to sound like racist because they're white dudes, but I mean they must have a lot of money to throw away in wrestling because there's some guys that they're signed for $10,000. They wasted $10,000 on a main event and stuff, and it's and it's not maybe just a white guy thing, and maybe there's other people who do it.
Well,
it's more of a throwaway money type of thing.
You do hear stories about I've heard several stories about people who inherited some family money that they probably could have bought a house off of. Instead, they're going to become wrestling promoters and they lose it all, or then he wasn't a promoter, but remember the guy, Michael Wazanski, the Canadian?
Yeah, Canadian Tiger.
I never knew this, but apparently his family was some oil magnates. He was independently wealthy. He could have wrestled
anywhere.
Because he was wrestling in UWA when they were obviously not paying anything.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of promoters wouldn't like to go into details of how they fund stuff.
Yeah.
Because it could be anywhere from embarrassing to illicit. But that would be interesting in itself.
Just to me, it's weird because when I was thinking of promoting, I remember when we just got to the $3,000 mark, I was like, yeah, I think I'm not going to do this.
And
like I was like, once I got past 3,000, I'm like, but it's not just that you're spending that money. It's that you're looking at because I think when you go to shows, you start adding up more or less the money that's being spent.
Yes.
And you're like, insurance, ring crew, the ring, the chairs, the arena, the wrestlers. It's like it just adds up. The referees, the announcer, maybe the DJ. It's like it just
costly.
keeps the printing for tickets and flyers. It's like
Well, and then in the 80s, one of the reasons I had a hard time getting bookings is you also had to deal with the athletic commission. You had to pay a doctor to be at every show.
Yeah.
So very few people promoted because you had to invest a lot of money. But just in the last 25 years, I've known several different people who have opened up credit accounts, max credit cards.
Yeah, I think that's the only way they're doing it.
There were some indie guys who sold all their, whatever they collected, back when baseball cards were still worth something.
Yeah.
And most of them regret it.
Yeah, I'm guessing these guys must have really good jobs, or they come from good families. But they were talking about how Kamala no-showed one of their shows because he was at the airport and he realized he wore the wrong pants.
What?
So when they're telling they're really good at telling the story. So they're like, what do you mean he wore the wrong pants? And it's like, well, apparently the other pants that he has had his identification, like his license and stuff, his wallet and all that.
Gotcha.
So and they're like, can he go back and get them and then go back to the airport? I mean, really, it's like,
oh my God.
And apparently that was too much work for him to do, and they just ripped on Vader for what an asshole he was. I think there was they said Sonny was also difficult to deal with, which we've heard that because she's worked shows here in LA, and we've known people who dealt with her that said that she was very difficult. Somebody else that they brought up, I can't remember who else.
It is funny because there's so many people who, I think, the fan, you got to get rid of the fan inside you before you promote, because I think there's a lot of people who, this is my hero, and so they don't realize it's just a person, and they might be a good person, they might be Vader or Sonny or
and it's cool because they have some cool stories. Like they talk about, they were talking about some of the other wrestlers, like Seth Rollins, the guy, Tyler Black back then, now Seth Rollins, who they said was this guy would show up to shows no matter the conditions, no matter the weather. He's like, there were people he's like, there are people in our area that wouldn't go to some of the shows if it was like there was a bad snowstorm, and this guy would show up from another city far away. He's like, but that also shows you why there's a difference between some guys who want to do it and some guys who actually want to become stars, want to actually make a career out of it, and that's the difference.
I remember very clearly.
And that's Volador Jr. said the same thing. He's when he was talking about Flyer. When he said Flyer, he kind of wants him to do this because it's how is he gonna there's a huge difference between being a guy who shows up in Mexico City as opposed to becoming at his level, a star at his level. But
I remember toward the end of the territorial days when they're still doing the old formula of TV jobbers. I talked to guys who would drive 5 hours just to go to a TV taping, hoping they'll get booked as a jobber, do a 2-minute job, not get much money for it, and then they're
the guys who live right across the street that wouldn't show up.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of guys who wouldn't be willing to drive the 5 hours. They said, but you know what? They'll remember your face. They remember, there's a good chance the promoter will remember you drove 5 hours and you didn't ask for any special favors. You went in there and got thumped. And that's what you have to do.
That's how you separate the guys who are now in WWE to the guys who are toiling in their local indie group.
Absolutely.
And even at that level, there's some guys who aren't at that level. You look at Steve Payne. Steve Payne went to Mexico without knowing. He didn't know Spanish. I didn't even know that he didn't know Spanish.
And that's balls.
Till
that's good. And you do have to do that.
Yeah, and he got experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's So that's a show I recommend.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's only 35 minutes long, and they're really good. Like they actually it's a good podcast.
And a good podcast that is 8 times that long.
8 times as long.
The 4-hour podcast, but it's the only 4-hour podcast that I listen to. And I must preface by saying,
only have time to listen to.
I have time to listen to it because my current position where I work is doing data entry clerical, and so I can listen to music or podcasts. But it's the 605 podcast.
Imagine you got it wrong, 603. The 603 podcast. What?
I should
605 podcast. We should do a podcast and call it the 603 podcast.
Or how about the 420 podcast?
No, but we'll do
the 420.
The 603. We'll have before they announce their next podcast. We'll be the 603 podcast. We're 2 minutes ahead of them.
There you go. There you go. I like that. I like that. But and I'm not just saying that because Brian Last and the Bixie Demon
are obsessed with you now.
Everybody's obsessed with me. Once they see me and they feel my lack of charisma, they become obsessed with me. Everybody does. I was on the most recent one talking about the old LA territory, specifically the monster gimmick. And
talk about Dr. Jerry Grant.
They're going to play that on a future show, and I do recommend people listen to that one. That was a fun listen. But no, every show, whenever I hear of a podcast that's 3-4 hours long,
I think they split a lot of the stuff, right? Like if you do it,
they do. They interviewed me, and they had me talk about several different subjects,
and then they split it on different shows. That's actually pretty smart.
It's very good because they split the show up nicely. It's like they don't go on for an hour on one subject and then move on to another hour-long subject. They really divide it up nicely, and it's a really, really entertaining show, especially if you're an old school fan.
Me,
well, it's too long for a lot of people, but it's rare I will listen to a show that long.
I could within those. That's the trouble with these shows. Within those 4 hours of a show of a podcast, and it's I think everybody does those 4-hour podcasts now. Mm-hmm. I could listen to Konnan's podcast, watch CMLL Informa, and watch 2 or 3 of those matches that I just mentioned that I could that yes. You want to watch. So it's hard for me to do all that stuff.
Yeah, there. Even on other subjects that I like, there are some lengthy podcasts that I won't listen to the whole thing. But I do want to say this is the exception. This is a fun podcast. If you do have the time, I recommend that.
And a lot of people have the time. There's a lot of people who actually talk about
this is true.
They've enjoyed those shows. Like I was saying, a lot of those shows, 605 podcast, Exile on Bad Street, Between the Sheets, the Chris Zellner podcast.
Yes.
I think a lot of the fans who aren't familiar with a lot of the inside stuff from the years gone by, those are really great shows.
Yes.
Or if you want to remember that stuff or don't know a lot about that stuff,
exactly.
It's like, but if you actually remember all that stuff, it's although I do enjoy I told you, you do a Mid-South podcast, I'm listening to it. That's something else.
Yes.
It's got to be something I really enjoy.
Well, and I would say if there are people who are intent on doing a really lengthy podcast, this is a good one to listen to model yours after to see the way they pace it. Because they pace it to where they don't drone on too long about any one subject. They move from...
We should do a 4-hour podcast, see how long we can without insulting each other.
We'll brew 2 pots of coffee and we'll shotgun them. So
or that.
And speaking of long podcasts, we're not as long as the last one we did.
An hour 20, isn't it?
Yes,
an hour 20. It isn't that long.
And again, I want to thank everybody.
Next podcast, I might be alone. It'll be like the Konnan podcast. Yes. I might actually do a fan mail podcast where people just send me email and I could answer.
Or shall I try to call you from jolly old England? And,
no.
And I'll speak like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Hello, Fredo. Top of the morning to ya.
I should learn how to record Skype. And that way we could do that.
Because I know a lot of people use that.
Yeah, it just seems like more to learn. Although I learned some new stuff for my website this past week. So.
Oh, very cool. That's where I feel 95 years old. Here's Skype. What button do I push?
Yeah.
So Fredo might do a podcast while I'm away, and so who knows when our next podcast will be? Probably toward the end of July, and I hope Lucha Libre is thoroughly bitching in the month of July.
You hope it's horrible, so you don't have anything.
Exactly.
So you think you didn't miss anything.
So I already have a bunch of stuff. Well, for one,
you're already disappointed because you're going to miss the Barbara Carbonario Ray Cometa.
Yes, I am, and I missed their
Lucha Underground's Ultima Lucha is going to happen while you're gone, although you don't really watch that.
So, when I get back, I'm going to have a few days to get over jet lag. So, if I can't sleep, maybe I will...
You think Diamante Azul will be back in France by the time you're over?
The last day of the trip, we're gonna have dinner at the Lou. And all I could think of...
You see some big dude with a blue mask, you're like, that's Diamante Azul.
No, I didn't say anything, but the first thing I thought of when I heard of the Lou was like, oh, that's where Cassandro and Hijo de Santo wrestled.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Also, those of you... Cassandro has a GoFundMe page.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, if you could help with him, that'd be cool.
Yes, definitely.
Help him out.
Cassandro's
cool
a wonderful guy and one who should get a nod.
Yeah.
Okay, until next time, may the right hemisphere of the brain short circuit the left hemisphere, may the left hemisphere short circuit the right hemisphere, and bing, you're there. Talk to you at the end of July, folks. Take care.